It is Saturday, August 23rd, 2025 at Protestia Studios. This is an intelligence briefing coming to you from Protestia.com, where as always you can go to find the latest in Christian polemics and discernment news. Sign up for our insightful news blast. It might still be called Insurgency on the homepage. I need to check that, but sign up anyway and get 3 days a week of curated news links dropped in your inbox, or 6 days a week for the paid version. Support us on Patreon as an insider supporter by going over to patreon.com/Protestia. Let's get in to the headlines at Protestia.com. Russell Moore says that young men who gravitate to Douglas Wilson become losers. This is actually a curated link over to Church Leaders, so we're going to head over to Church Leaders to read it for you over at churchleaders.com. On the August 15 episode of the Bulletin podcast, Dr. Russell Moore, the editor-in-chief of Christianity Today, said Pastor Douglas Wilson presents a, quote, really dark and non-Christian view of who God is fundamentally, and that young men who embrace Wilson's teachings, quote, become losers instead of, quote, responsible, faithful men. Russell Moore is the editor-in-chief at Christianity Today. He talked with podcast moderator Clarissa Mole and CT media director Mike Cosper, of course he did, about Wilson's recent interview with CNN. In the interview, Wilson, a 72-year-old Idaho pastor and self-described Christian nationalist, discussed his views on women's slavery and transforming America into a Christian country. You can head over to Protestia and the link over to Church Leaders to read the rest of this. But like I recently posted on X, if the choice is between, for me at least, I'll speak for myself, if the choice is between Doug Wilson, who I have written critically of in the past, particularly on soteriology, but if it's between Doug Wilson being in a community with him and the Moscow guys, or a foxhole or a church, or Russell Moore and his ilk, it's the Moscow guys every day and twice on Sunday. Doug Wilson did put up a responsive article or a video or something answering Russell Moore here. And of course, if you haven't seen it yet, go look on X for the Canon Press video that they put out a few days ago on Russell Moore. Even with the things I disagree with Doug Wilson, that is how you respond to clowns like Russell Moore. Next headline from Protestia.com. Top 10 oldest Protestant churches in America. How many have stayed faithful versus become woke? This is over at Protestia, and there are pictures and a top 10 list of the 10 oldest Protestant churches in America. You can see it over here, given that they all would have been founded by godly men and women with conservative ideals and a biblical foundation. We wanted to see how many of them have remained in the faith after hundreds of years, or how many have gone off the rails into rank heresy and progressivism. As you might imagine, the list is less than encouraging, but keep in mind that the church buildings are just church buildings. It's more sad to see that once formerly faithful congregations have, generally speaking, degraded into heretical and culture-destroying kind of views. Read more about that over at Protestia.com. Moving on, next headline, Catholic apologist Alex Gerardo, the voice of reason, breaks silence on sexting scandal. Alex Gerardo is the founder of Voice of Reason, a popular Roman Catholic apologetic channel with over 500,000 followers across multiple social media platforms. His Catholic Speakers bio, speaks glowingly of his accomplishments, including becoming a teenage prodigy in his local community, leading, quote, thousands and thousands of people becoming or returning to the Catholic Church, and debating James White, although I wouldn't say that last one is necessarily something that I would put on my resume at this point. Last month, several whistleblowers in the Catholic apologist community accused Gerardo of grooming a 14-year-old girl and having an inappropriate relationship with her when he was 21. The original complainant swiftly retracted part of his claim, amending the girl's age to 16 and the man's age to 19 to 20 years old. The whistleblowers also shared inappropriate, sexually explicit messages that Gerardo apparently sent to the other woman. There have been a few different podcasts talking about this recently. I didn't know all of the details, but a lot of the details. and his response are in this Protestia article if you are curious to get the facts on the issue, which of course we always recommend you do rather than just emotionally opining over on social media. Moving on, at Protestia op-ed, should you attend the wedding of a man sleeping with his father's wife? This is a comparative that we made when last year, almost 2 years ago now, when Alistair Begg recommended that to a grandmother that she attend her trans granddaughter's wedding and bring a gift. That this wasn't an endorsement of the wedding per se, and so the example, and we threw it out back then. The example that we threw out was, well, what if the wedding was between a father? I think the example we threw back then was what if it was a father marrying his daughter? You probably wouldn't go to that wedding. But this is also a good example, a man sleeping with his father's wife, because it's pulled directly from 1 Corinthians. And I'll read a little bit of the op-ed. Last year, during a Truth for Life program, Alistair Begg offered a scenario where a Christian woman called in saying that her grandson is about to marry a transgendered person, wanted to know if she should attend the wedding. Noting that many people may not like this answer, Begg explained that as long as her grandson knew she believed it's sinful and does not agree with it, then the grandmother should attend the ceremony, even buy them a gift, because if not, her absence will simply reinforce the fact that she is judgmental and critical. Some of you may have seen the recent Protestia Night where I outlined and explained how this wasn't just a one-time slip-up. It wasn't Alistair Begg simply being too compassionate and making an error in this recommendation to this grandmother. This is actually, his recommendation pulls directly from theology that he teaches and teaches in his 2023 book, The Christian Manifesto, which he was being interviewed about on his own radio program when he made the comments about the advice he gave to the grandmother. You can read more of this op-ed over at protestia.com, and I would recommend you do. Another good example I heard, and I'm trying to remember where I heard this. Put in the comments if you know where this came from, but it was an example. It might have been... I'm not sure, but if you know who offered this comparative, let me know. I thought it was a good one. What if your grandson was ranking up in the Ku Klux Klan and they had a ceremony for that? That, of course, you disagree with the Klan and you disagree with his participation in it and all that. Would you go to the ceremony where they were promoting him in the Klan to show your support and bring a gift? Now, I don't think Alistair Begg would do that. Is there anything different about this quote-unquote trans wedding in terms of its sinfulness? Well, of course not. Anyway, moving on. Next headline at protestia.com. Redemption Church pastor busted for luring 14-year-old boy. Redemption Church senior pastor Neil Creasy, I believe it's how it's pronounced, 46, has resigned from the pastorate after being arrested for seeking to lure a 14-year-old boy for sex following a sting by police to catch child predators. According to 8 News Now, on Thursday, August 7th, Creasy allegedly chatted with a person posing as a 14-year-old boy about meeting for sexual contact, police said. Creasy did not provide any images during the conversation, but agreed to meet who he thought was a teenager at a predetermined meeting location, police said. He allegedly then drove to the location, leading to his arrest. Yes, putting online stings out there like this is a kind of tried and true technique to catch child predators. Very sad to hear this, but glad that it looks like justice is on its way to being done. Next headline over at protestia.com. Let's see. Part 2 of the top 10 oldest Protestant churches. We have another article over at Protestia with, I guess this would be the top 5. So starting in Dorchester, Maryland, or Massachusetts, excuse me. Let's see. The First Church of Boston, 1630. You can see some of the imagery here. What else we got? We had First Parish Church in Salem, 1629, founded as the first Puritan congregation in Massachusetts Bay. This church saw some of its earliest members entangled in the infamous Salem witch trials. So if we're following it to where it is now, let's see, the First Church here, yeah, this is now on their website. They welcome all who wish to share in their religious fellowship and spiritual quest, regardless of color, race, creed, or sexual orientation. Welcome and celebrate various theological, philosophical, and spiritual diversity. We espouse to work to live the values of freedom, reason, interdependence, equity, justice, transformation, pluralism, and generosity as pathways to honoring love as our central tenet, right? I mean, catch that, right? Not honoring God, not that, but honoring love. Yeah, you can see part 2 on Protestia as well. Moving on, next headline: James Dobson, founder of Focus on the Family, dies at 89 for a Colorado raised boy like me. It's hard to underestimate Focus on the Family's influence on my growing up in the church, for sure. And I wrote this, I guess you'd say, an obituary over at Protestia.com. I'd also recommend that you go over to J.D. Hall's Insight and read what he wrote about James Dobson. I thought it was a very special way to describe him as well. James Clayton Dobson Jr., the evangelical psychologist who became one of the most recognizable figures in American Christianity through his ministry Focus on the Family, died on August 21st, 2025 at 89 years old. His passing was confirmed by the Dr. James Dobson Family Institute. For more than 4 decades, Dr. Dobson shaped evangelical thought on marriage, parenting, and family life. Trained as a child psychologist, he first gained national attention in 1970 with his best-selling book, Dare to Discipline, which promoted a model of firm yet caring child rearing. The book's success led to media appearances, speaking tours, and eventually the creation of a small radio program that would become the foundation of Focus on the Family. My mom used to have a wooden spoon in her purse for disciplining us when we got out of line, and to this day I am thankful that she followed a lot of the advice and whatnot given to her by Dr. James Dobson. Read more about his history and whatnot over at Protestia.com. But safe to say that we are very grateful at Protestia. We are very, very grateful for Dr. James Dobson, and we are celebrating that he is now in the presence of the Lord. Last headline at Protestia.com: Tony Evans returns to preaching a year after stepping down due to unnamed sins. More than a year after Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship pastor Tony Evans announced that he was stepping away from public ministry on account of unnamed sins he committed, he has returned to the quote-unquote pulpit, so to speak, preaching at the Family Leadership Summit in Des Moines, Iowa this past July. According to the promo material, quote, the Family Leadership Summit is the Midwest's premier event for Christians committed to transforming culture through God's design for the family, church, government, and more, and a movement calling Christians to engage culture with courage, clarity, and conviction. Along with Evans, the event features Steve Deace, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Bob Vander Plaats, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds, author Joel Rosenberg, and Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America, President Marjorie Dannenfelser. Excuse me. So let's watch a little bit, see if there's any interesting in our clip here.
Jesus called for a conference. That conference that he called for is summarized for us in Matthew 28. In our circles, we call it the Great Commission. From chapter 28 through verses 16 to 20, he gives his authorization to his representatives. 3 groups are invited to the conference. We're told in verse 16 that the 11 went up to the mountain that Jesus had designated. So the 11, that is minus Judas, went up to the meeting. We're told in 1 Corinthians 15 that there were more than 500 brethren who gathered to meet Jesus. So there are at least 500 or perhaps 511, or if 11 are part of the 500, 489 that have gathered together at the mountain for the meeting with the risen Christ.
So nothing juicy from that clip there. He's describing the gathering of disciples before Jesus gave the Great Commission, but we still don't know at this point what the sins were that caused Tony Evans to step down from ministry for the time being. Who knows if we will ever find out. Would be concerning that any pastor, anybody claiming to be a pastor, steps down from ministry due to sin, and yet nobody gets to know what that sin is. I think it matters. It certainly matters to people that would be members of that church. but we'll keep following it and see what happens. Thank you for joining me for this intelligence briefing for the 23rd of August, 2025. Stay tuned to Protestia.com for all of your latest in Christian polemics and discernment news. See you again next time. As always, Semper Reformanda.